Reading in Philippine History. In this study, I am going to present a case study from the controversies of the said topic, which was the Cry of Balintawak. The Cry of Balintawak happened on August 26, 1896, as proved by the testimonies of the people who had witnessed the event, which means that their versions are accurately detailed and showed credibility. The whole story of how, what, and where the revolution really started will be presented in this video presentation. This study would benefit future researchers and people who seek for the truth, as this study aims to discuss credible sources that can help determine the issue regarding the exact date of the first cry that unfolded in the later half of August 1896. Year after year, it has remained unresolved, left to be debated upon and studied by the researchers on when the cry actually happened. Through the use of triangulation method as well as assessing and analyzing sources, this study would explore and discuss different accounts from people who either present and related who took part of the cry of the Balintawak event. In order to gain a clear understanding of what had happened and be able to determine where it took place, this would then benefit future researchers and people with the information provided. With that, this could also be used as a secondary source for some researchers seeking knowledge about this study. This study aims to discuss credible and accurate accounts of the events that unfold in the later half of August 1896 and possibly determine the exact date wherein the cry of Balintawak transparent. But first, what exactly was the first cry? The Cry of Balintawak is an event in which the Filipinos started the first staging act of revolution. The cry actually refers to the first clash between the Katipuneros, showing the reform by tearing up their cedulas into pieces, implicating that they have pronounced to refuse their enslavement and servitude with the Spaniards. When did the Cry of Balintawak really happen? This cry started the armed struggling for independence and changed the history of the Philippines forever, with their main purpose being to escape the tyranny at the hands of the Spaniards. This was Andres Bonifacio's goal to lead the Katipuneros into a battle for the nation's independence and to avenge the death of Jose Rizal. Eyewitnesses to this turning point in the country's history wrote different accounts based on their own perspectives, resulting in contradictory statements that will baffle historians for years to come. Such different accounts will be then discussed accordingly. Many articles were made featuring these various accounts that detailed their own perspective on the events that took place, which just make us wonder what version is the most credible and accurate. Different accounts of witnesses have emerged with a significant number of records, one of which is the narrative of Pio Valenzuela. He claims that he is the first-hand witness of the said cry of Pugadlawin and that it had happened on the 23rd of August 1896. According to his account on the second version, he had written that the first place of the refuge was in Balintawak and that there were 500 Katipuneros who met at Apollonius Samson Place. In the yard of Juan Ramos, where over 1,000 members of Katipuneros met on the 23rd of August. The account of Pio Valenzuela may not have been credible enough to further assess the real date behind the controversy due to his change of statement. Although it is important to take note that his first version, in which he stated while it was still fresh in his memories, may have been greater than that of his second version. Let us now take a view on the other existing accounts in hopes to clear some confusions, which also claims a different dates from these issues. The next account that we will look into is the interpretation of Santiago Alvarez, who was a Katipunan warrior of Cavite, who wrote his own version of the Cry of Balintawak, which he called as the Cry of Bahay Toro. Santiago Alvarez stated that the cry had happened on 24th August in 1896. Santiago Alvarez stated that it was 10 a.m. in the morning in the barn of Melchora Aquino. There were thousands of Katipuneros along with Bonifacio and his men. As the meeting adjourned at 12 o'clock noon, loud cries were heard saying, "Long live the son of the country!" Santiago Alvarez. Although he was a Katipunan warrior, his account's credibility and accuracy could be questioned, for he was in Cavite when the said cry had happened and was not an eyewitness to begin with. Unlike both Masangkay and Samson, where they were present at the cry and fight broke out between the Katipunan and Spaniards as mentioned in their accounts, his accounts does not equal to other versions by the said account of the eyewitnesses. Gregoria de Jesus. Another statement containing a different date was from the Lakambini of the Katipunan, Gregoria de Jesus, who is also referred to as the wife of Andres Bonifacio, who is then considered to be the Supremo of the Katipuneros. She oversaw their documents as well as their weapons and even helped in safeguarding them. According to Gregoria de Jesus, during those times when members were arrested, they immediately returned to Caloocan. As they too were about to be arrested, Bonifacio left town along with the other Katipuneros, in which she stated that the cry had happened on August 25, 1896. As she fled upon hearing the Spaniards were coming to arrest her at 11 o'clock night, she secretly went to La Loma to escape. She returned to Manila, where she was denied refuge in some houses, in which she then found out how the houses that catered to her end up being seized, punished, and some even died in exile. Gregoria de Jesus' account may not have been reliable and not credible enough, for she were in Caloocan with her parents when it happened, and was not an eyewitness to the event. She had only heard about other people, namely her friends, and that too may have been altered as mentioned. She joined Bonifacio only after the said cry. Similarly, Captain Olegario Diaz, who is the Spanish commander of the Guardia Civil Veterana of Manila, stated in this account that the cry occurred on the 25th of August 1896 at Balintawak. According to his proclamation, as Bonifacio fled to Caloocan and then to Balintawak, where they were said to be attacked by his fellow Guardia Civil, they retreated from hiding in the 24th of August, 1896. The following day, on the 25th of August, there came a big meeting. On twist, they discussed on what to do next, considering that arrest was made and that their situation has become challenging. Due to this, some were even considering backing down and even surrender. Yet, Bonifacio opposed and believed otherwise he was end to take fight. It was then Bonifacio's strong influence was seen, as it was put to vote, an overwhelming majority were in agreement with him. Orders were then made to strike at August 30. Captain Olegario Diaz and Gregoria de Jesus' accounts can be considered inaccurate, for in both accounts, they did not experience the events firsthand and has only heard about it from other people. It is possible that the statement he received in order to make his report and investigation may have been altered. He too has an undetailed report. Guillermo Masangkay, a friend and advisor of Andres Bonifacio. According to his account, a big meeting was held at the house of Apolonio at Balintawak on August 26, 1896, consisting of the ward members and leaders of Katipunan, one of which was Bonifacio, along with the delegates from different towns were present. As the meeting was on at 9 o'clock in the morning with Emilio Jacinto as the secretary, some of the board members were considering to postpone the revolution, namely Teodoro Plata, Pantas, and Valenzuela, who were the leaders of the Katipunan and board directors of the organization. They opposed the plan as they said that it would only harm them in the end and that starting it early could go wrong without weapons and food. Guillermo Masangkay stated that when Andres Bonifacio felt that he would lose the argument, he left the meeting and talked to the people outside, telling them what the leaders were discussing and let them decide, persuading them to revolt, wherein as a result, all of them were in favor. Thus, the tearing of Cedula happened. Seeing as how the cedulas were destroyed, majority voted for the revolution. The tearing of cedulas was their act of severing ties of the Spanish government. Destroying their cedulas meant that they couldn't no longer go home because the Spanish would persecute them. After the People's Pledge was obtained by Bonifacio, he returned to the session hall and informed the leaders of what took place outside. In spite of the protests of the opposition of Plata, Pantas, and Valenzuela, the people outside shouted, "Long live the Philippine Republic!" Guillermo Masangkay account is credible enough for he was one of a few to truly enable and inform us of the details of the first cry. He was able to provide details such as how the leaders were arguing about when and if they should proceed the revolt immediately. He depicted the things that happened in orderly that made his manuscript a credible piece of our history. Based on the account studied, the conclusion reached was the cry of Balintawak occurred on August 26, 1896. This conclusion was reached after noting how many of the accounts corroborated with each other regarding the date, sharing a lot of similarities in their testimonies with each other. The two most known accounts were the accounts of Masangkay and Samson. Both stated that they witnessed the cry led by Bonifacio and his fellow Katipuneros on the 26th of August in 1896. To give clarification on this case study, we have concluded that the timeline of the first cry started on the 26th of August in 1896, and that's when the conflicts between the two sides began, as proved by the accounts of Masangkay and Samson. According to Ambet R. Ocampo, we can peg the beginning of the revolution to the very first encounter between the Katipuneros and the Guardia Civil in Balintawak on August 26, 1896. For the moment, let us leave things at that and proceed to other matters. In my opinion, it is the significance of the event rather than the date and place that makes Balintawak, August 26, 1896, a landmark in our history. Thank you for lending me your time. I hope you have a wonderful day. Keep safe and God be with you all. Thank you.